Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, the Manga Man here, and today we're talking about One Piece Chapter 1010 or Chapter 1010. The official scanlation, I say official, I mean unofficial scanlation, released about 8 o'clock UK time. No, obviously I was in La La Land because I'm not working today. But had this been a work day, it would literally be a case of recording, rendering and uploading at lunchtime. But thankfully I've got up. It's been out for a few hours. I'm doing this video and hopefully between 12 and 1 o'clock UK time you'll see this on my channel. As always, please support the official release and please check out all thumbnails, all details in the description below, which will include links to my subreddit as well as my Twitter for all those that can follow to get notification. As you know, with the algorithm with YouTube, it isn't always telling everybody. So without further ado, let's get into this review. So, the chapter is out. It doesn't disappoint, but the first thing to get out of the way is there will be a break next week. So, unfortunately, the fun has to wait for another week. Honestly, there's quite a lot to digest, and there's a lot of different directions the story can go moving forward. So, I really don't think having like a 30-40 minute video for the level of audience I've got plus the level of engagement I've got, as fulfilling as it would be for me, probably might not be entertaining for all of you. But as always, I always suggest for those people that are into the longer videos, after you've watched mine, feel free to check out Soy7Mage and Teching 101, who on a regular go into hella long detail about every chapter of One Piece, so definitely check them out. As always, please like, comment, share and subscribe, support the official release, and all my details will be in the description below. I say in my intro, I always say it in the chapter now as well, so just bear that in mind. So let's kind of go through the chapter as a whole, and as it goes along I'll pick on a few things, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of things that I'll miss or I'll have to reread to kind of really digest, but it's important to bear in mind anyway. So I've got my it's not necessarily a live reaction so much as it's essentially a reread in a sense as well. So we get this whole situation with Big Mom. She's falling, she's calling for Zeus because she's basically used to Zeus carrying herself, and then Prometheus being there and whatnot, and Prometheus can't necessarily help because he's getting essentially chewed out, chopped up and made into sashimi by Zoro. What's interesting is while this is happening, Law is kind of like surprised and is like saying, I can't believe this guy. He's basically practically all his bones are broken in his body from taking that Yonko attack, yet he's still kind of going on. It's just, we know that as readers he's got an unnatural level of endurance and will, but other people are beginning to see that now, and obviously the respect will be there. What this ultimately does though is this forces Kaido's hand, because he's like, come on, what are you doing? I'm having to save you now. Lin he calls her, and he goes after Zoro, and the funny thing is in the translation he calls him Pirate Hunter. So I find it funny that naming, the epithet still stays with him today, because that was kind of his thing earlier on. And then he became a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. We consider him the right-hand man, the vice captain of the Straw Hats, unofficially. But that Pyro Hunter kind of naming is still with him. So Kaido goes to attack him. He gets switched. Zoro gets switched with Law, who hits him with his injection shot, which causes Kaido to cough up blood. It's important to bear in mind those that have made him cough up blood, generally speaking, have essentially done it from an internal attack, so they haven't really got through his defense or armor. They found a way to bypass it basically. Now ultimately by him doing this, he's no longer Zoro's no longer basically chopping down Prometheus, and by extension Napoleon can basically go help Big Mom, which they do. When they get to the bottom, Big Mom's kind of exasperated, and she's basically saying, what's the Zeus doing, and he's still locked up in a box. And they complain about how he's always kind of like the weak link, I guess, or always letting them down. And there's a suggestion that's made. We don't see it, but we get some inclination of what it could be, because Kid and Killer have stated that they're gonna go after Big Mom because they all they want to do was separate Big Mom from Kaido, and it looks like Kid and Killer are gonna fight Big Mom, and it looks like Law, Luffy, and Zoro are gonna fight against Kaido at this point in the chapter. Then we see Kid basically making a statement about the clouds, which led a lot of people that have read the raw kind of chapters or read the spoiler reviews that it does look like Big Mom might be making a new homie that's kind of an enhanced version of Zeus, because Zeus seems a little bit like slow, I guess, or a bit distractible or naive or babyish is probably a better way to put it. And that's what it looks like it's gonna happen. Doesn't necessarily mean that, but it does indicate it. That is one of the threads, storyline narratives you can go down. Now, that being said, what happens to Zeus? Does Zeus cease to exist, or is this a link that's gonna send him to Nami? Because Nami did say she needed a bit more firepower to deal with the combination of Page 1 and Ulti. So that might be a thing. That's maybe where that's going. But we don't see much of Big Mom after this. We just see this bit. The rest of the chapter really focuses on Kaido. Now, if you kind of go through what really happens, there's a few things. Number one, Zoro knows he's at his limit. He says, we can't keep this up. He reveals an attack. Bearing in mind he's basically 99% done as it is. He reveals his Ashura attack, which not only damages Kaido, but Kaido even says it will leave a scar. To Zoro's disappointment, it doesn't take him down, but it will leave a scar. This is an important feat in itself, aside from blocking two Yonko's attacks, is because the only other person that could scar Kaido is dead. So the name that could be attributed to Zoro now is the only person alive that could scar Kaido is Zoro. So that in itself, should Kaido survive and not be killed, basically is something that will boost up Zoro's hype, his bounties, everything. If people find out that he blocked an attack, albeit temporarily, it's going to go even further. So that's really an important feat for him. The next part of that is the reaction from Kaido. Now Kaido is like, you as well? Conquerors Haki? And Zoro's like, I don't know. And then he's like on the floor. This is important because if you think back about the time skip, there was a question made to Oda. What is the specialty in terms of Haki for the monster trio? And Zoro was the armament was Soushoku Haki. Luffy was Haoshoku no Haki. And Sanji was Kenbunshu no Haki. The presence or whatever have you. The colour of presence. So when you think of it that way, not necessarily mean that they can't evolve, develop, the amounts that they use, the amounts they can control, but more about where their inclinations lie. They have possibly a better control of certain of the three versions of Haki than the other two. So when you think about it that way, we were always as fans thinking, does he have it, does he not have it? That was always been his thing, and because it's not his specialty, he could have always had it and just not known how to get it out. Now it's also important to bear in mind, in this chapter we get a lot of discussion about application. There was a fight scene, not necessarily much of a fight scene, between Whitebeard and Redhead Shanks when he goes to tell Whitebeard to call back Ace, and you see as he's showing his presence, it's essentially wrecking the ship. This is an application of Haki, and that's what we're seeing now. So we've always had hints about this, because we haven't been seeing it. So basically, Zoro has found a way to use his Haki, sounds, I know, counterintuitive, including his Hoshouku no Haki in his attacks. He's doing it in the reverse to what Luffy's doing, because Luffy learned to flex it and make people faint before, and now he's in this chapter he's gonna get to use it in his attacks. Whereas Zoro has learned to use it in his attacks, and you know, he'll probably learn to do the fainting stuff later. So it's kind of, he's doing it the opposite way, which then also kind of perpetuates the idea that, you know, Mihawk will also have Conquerors Haki. Not confirmed, but it can be safely assumed that's the case, because he's had to deal with a lot of the higher ups in the world, as well as dueling with Shanks, who we know who has Conquerors Haki. Speaking of Conquerors Haki, all this is happening. Kaido gets hurt. He's fine, but he's got hurt enough to acknowledge that he's going to have a scar. Then, to which point he's down. Law gets attacked by the Thunder Bagua. He's basically down. Earlier in the chapter, we see that the outcome of the attack that Luffy essentially fainted, albeit temporarily, and there was that scene where the ashura comes out, which was I kind of glossed over a little bit, but realistically it was kind of cool, because it was like Kaido's like, this guy's down, he's still glaring at me, I should rip his eyes out, and Zoro's like, well, he's my captain, you're gonna have to deal with me first, because of his attack. So I like that's the case. That eventually it's going to get to a point where a lot of the powerful pirates are not going to be able to touch Luffy, because they're going to have to get past people like Zoro, or like Jinbei, or like Sanji, and so on and so forth. People that are so powerful that you won't be able to get to the boss before dealing with them, and they'll probably take you down. Kind of like Big Mom's got with the commanders and the army that she has, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so he gets taken down, but after all this has happened and he's done a Thunder Bagua, Luffy stands back up, and he kind of makes the realization that, you know, this guy's using Haoshoku no Haki in his attack, Conquerors Haki. And you see the difference now. When he starts fighting now, you can see the kind of reddy black kind of lightning bolts off his attack. You can see that he's not touching Kaido with his blocks and his attacks, and he's landing damage. And it really is the throwback to a flashback that we had between Whitebeard and the Pirate King Roger, where basically in this case Law is Kozuki Oden, and he's like, oh, they're not touching. Ultimately what this is kind of showing you that is Luffy's is ascending to those heights where he can use the same level of application, maybe not the same amount, maybe they're not the same devastation, but the same application level of advanced Armamanet Haki, advanced usage of Conquerors Haki together to be able to be more destructive. And that's what we get here, and then we essentially get Luffy lander attack that sends Kaido down to his knees onto the floor, and he basically saying, I'll take care of this for now, be on your way. As into Luffy, and as into Zoro and Law. What this ultimately is, someone joked about this, is essentially the build up now to the next stage of the fight. What's really going to happen? Really, this is kind of, in a way, Luffy training while fighting in a life or death situation, no different than he did with Katakuri. It's just the scale is a lot higher now, and I don't know how Kid and Kill are going to deal with Big Mom. I don't know what's going to happen with the Thunderclouds. Is a new homie going to come? We don't know. What is going to happen next with Luffy's development, because he's worked on his kind of presence haki or future sight. Now he's worked with Hyugoro on his armament, and he's kind of had this process now with the Haoshoku no Haki. Now he's going to put that together, and he's going to really utilize it, which essentially means at the end of this, the next person he fights is going to be a big person. He's gonna be able to use it. That's literally what this is getting towards. Now, aside from the break, again, I'm gonna go back to this one because I don't want to admit it, but I will have to. I'm a Zoro fanboy. What can I say? But basically, what this means, other than the parallels with Rayleigh, and I really want him to meet Scappa Cabana and get training from him at some point because of who he was. We will at some point, whether it's in this arc or next arc, potentially see a fully powered up version of Ashura. The reason why that's important is because practically dead, he scarred Kaido with his last attack, put everything into it on the floor. Kaput, right? Not dead, but out of it, out of the fight. That means if he doesn't get it in this chapter, this arc, he will get it next arc. And we're going to see the full ability of the Ashura. Now the thing is, at the same time, he hasn't fully realized the whole Conquerors Haki section of it. He hasn't fully mastered it. He has no idea about it. He's basically going on raw instinct and kind of what he's learned from Mihawk. That being said, when he does, and he does master, because he knows the other two, if he can master Conquerors Haki and on his journey to the end of the series, fully master all three areas, advance in all three areas, because we know he knows Rio because of the old Emma situation, but without Emma he needs to know how to do Rio. He needs to know that next level of Armamanet Haki, and hopefully something similar in the present section and the Conqueror section, and we will have a beast on our hands, and I'm hoping we get some kind of advancement for the rest of the crewmates as well. This review has gone on long enough. I will see you next time. Peace.